You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Colby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Today we're going to ask the question, should I buy my own ISBN? Should I buy my own ISBN, Keith? I don't know.
Well, the short answer is maybe. I mean, it depends on what types of books you're doing, and what your plan is for your business, and obviously what your budget is, because ISBNs are for many people are not free. I do know that in some countries, like in Canada, you can get them for free, from the government. But yeah, there are a lot of things that go into whether or not you should buy your own ISBN.
Yeah, maybe we should just explain for anybody who doesn't know what an ISBN is. I think it stands for, and correct me if I'm wrong, International Standard Book Number.
That's correct.
It was invented a while ago, I think here in the UK, as a method to categorize books for bookstores, libraries, that kind of thing. And it's just a way that the whole world has now adapted that system to categorize their books. And when we publish a book on Amazon, in the past, we always used to get a free ISBN from Amazon. And for low content book creators, that has changed, and Amazon don't require an ISBN number, which makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't think that low content books needed an ISBN anyway. I thought that bit was always a bit weird. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. They're not, they're because they're consumable. I was trying not to say they're not books, but they're not written books, because they're consumables. They're not something that's going to stay up on a shelf, like a regular book at maybe a library would, or someone's own library. And so yeah, I agree that I never thought that it made sense that they would be required to have an ISBN. Also, basically what the ISBN does is it denotes a lot. I mean, I could do a whole segment on what all the different numbers mean within the ISBN, but basically it flags a couple of important things, like the country it was published in, the type of book it is. Like if you have an ebook and a paperback and a cover and a hardcover, they're going to have different ISBNs for each format. And I say that, and as of now, ebooks don't require an ISBN. But so if you have a spiral bound and a hardcover and a paperback, each of those would need their own ISBN. And so it denotes what specific type it is. Also, if you have different sizes, so like if you have an 8x10 and then you have a little pocket edition that's 6x9, each of those will have a different ISBN. And so it really it's a good way to it's a unique identifier for that particular edition of that book.
That's right. It's I always think of them as a passport for a book in a way, and this is why I found it so strange that low content books have them, because I love low content books. I love notebooks, planners, all the rest, but they're not books. They're not reading material. They're not, they are like stationery.
I was just going to say that.
You buy them like you would buy an envelope, or you buy, something you use in your office or at home. So I thought having an ISBN for them was a bit weird anyway. So for every different format of a book, you need an ISBN. And I love low content books, but they're not books as we know them. You wouldn't have to classify them in a library or in a bookstore. It's completely different to a book, to a novel, to a nonfiction book, anything like that. So for me, it was a really good thing that Amazon changed that, and that they don't require any ISBNs for low content books. But now we've obviously got the question, shall we just use our own ISBN, or do we use Amazon's free ISBN? And I'm not an expert in ISBNs or how what the best thing to do is, but the way I do it is if I'm making a low content book like a notebook or a planner, I don't use an ISBN. I just put them on Amazon and
Right.
they're stationary. I really don't worry about whether they've got an ISBN or not. But if I'm making a low content book or maybe I should call it a medium content book, which is a little bit more involved and I'm putting more effort into that book and it takes me a long time to create that book, I do buy my own ISBNs because I might be able to publish that somewhere else one day. I'm not sure, because sometimes other platforms don't take on low content books. But when they're sort of not classic low content books, when they're hovering in between, then I think I'll buy my own ISBN just in case I can then publish somewhere else one day as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason I buy my own ISBNs for them is because I have different brands for my books. And instead of saying independently published, it will have my imprint from my brand as the publisher. And I feel that, I don't know, I mean, it's not necessary, but I feel it helps with branding. And that's the only reason I would buy my own ISBN. That's for my low content books. And obviously then for my nonfiction books, I do buy an ISBN as well. And that's basically it. But I wouldn't worry necessarily about notebooks or planners. Definitely not. I would just publish them without an ISBN. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. Yeah, if you're doing low content, no content books, then I would say you don't need an ISBN, or you don't need to buy your own. If you're publishing on KDP, like you said, it's not even required anymore. It's a little checkbox that you do. But if you're publishing it on another platform that maybe does require it to have an ISBN still, use the free one that they give you. Most platforms give you a free ISBN, whether it's Lulu or Ingram Spark, there are plenty of different platforms that do give you the free one. One of the reasons when I do use ISBNs is if I plan on kind of what you alluded to, if I plan on putting it on multiple platforms, because if you get the free ISBN from KDP, that can only be used on KDP. So now if you take that same book and you put it on Ingram Spark, you now have to have their ISBN for that copy of it. And it just, to me personally, it doesn't look professional. Plus it's just extra work because then you have to go into the interior and update the ISBN number on it. If you have it on multiple platforms and you have to keep changing the ISBN depending on the platform. So if I plan on publishing wide, as we talk about, then I will almost always use my own ISBN.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people ask, if I take Amazon's ISBN, that means I can't publish my book on any other site. I think you can. It's just that you would then have to use another ISBN for the other site. And like you said, I just don't think that's professional if the same book has two different ISBNs, because like I said earlier, to me, they're like a passport. And one book should just have one identifier. It doesn't make sense to me to have the same book out in the world with two different ISBNs or even three different ISBNs. I would prefer to then have them all under one ISBN, and that's why I would buy my own in that case. But you can definitely publish the same book, as far as I know, on other platforms, just with you would then have to use a different ISBN. And when I say it's a little bit like a passport, I think that is the reason why we can't change certain things about our books, like the title or the subtitle and the pen name, the author name. So there are certain books that there are certain things that are locked into your ISBN, as far as I understand. So that's one of the reasons why you can't for example, change your title of a book, or you can't change your pen name because that's locked into the ISBN.
Yeah, there's some parts of that metadata that cannot be changed because like you can't change the trim size because like I said earlier, that's what those are some of the things that are imprinted into what the ISBN represents. And so it's, if you do a different size, well, then it's a different book. If even if you decide that you want to call it the second edition, that's now a different book, so it needs a different ISBN. So and another thing that we were talking about is, whether or not you've got the budget for it. It's ISBNs are not, for most people, are not going to be super cheap. I will say a couple really important things if you do decide you're going to buy your own is make sure that you get it from whatever the official ISBN agency is for your particular country. So, and here in the US, and I believe in Australia, it's Barker, but depending on the country, it's going to be different, because I know you were telling me that in the UK, it's Nielsen. And so there's actually, you can go to a site, and we'll include a link to it in the show notes, but you can go to the ISBN international.org website, and there's a find agent or something along those lines. Again, we'll give you the exact link to it, where you can put in your country and it will tell you what the official agency is. Because like you were saying, another reason to buy your ISBN is if you want that imprint, if you want that brand, you get to put in there what, who the imprint is. So I can put Keith Wheeler Books, or you can put, whatever brands yours are, the Home Boss or whatever. But if you buy it from somebody outside of that agency, that imprint is something else, because you didn't buy it. So whoever bought it, and then you buy it from them, one, you might not be the only one that bought that one. You could be, getting ripped off, but also you could be promoting somebody else's brand, which is not only helping somebody else, but more importantly, it's hindering your brand. You're putting out books, and instead of saying the Home Boss, it says something else or whatever, and it's really going to confuse your buyers. And so again, if you do decide to buy your own ISBN, if you can afford it, I'd say buy in bulk, because you're going to get a much better discount that way. But also make sure that you buy it from whatever the agency is for your country.
Very, very important point. I think I can't stress that enough, because I have seen people who have bought ISBNs from some kind of third party, and it's not really theirs. You can't use your imprint, like you said. And also here in the UK, you have to send a copy of your book, a physical copy of your book, to the British Library when you publish. And that's kind of linked in your ISBN as well. I think you register it, if I remember correctly, and things like that. This is why I thought it was silly to have an ISBN for low content books, because I'm not sending a notebook to the British Library. So, so that is the other reason why it's so important to buy from the official provider of your country. And, just don't buy from anybody else, because you don't know who that person is or who the company is. And you want that book to be yours, and that's the only way to ensure that it's yours, really. The book is yours, but it's just not professional if it's got a different name under the imprint, who the publisher is. So that's a really important point, I thought.
And it's important. The reason why I wanted to bring it up is because it's really easy to get sucked into something like that, especially if you don't know, because majority of the time they're going to be charging a lot less than the official agency is. And so like here in the US, it's $125 for one. So you might get people, they'll sell you an ISBN for $50. Well, then that seems like a huge deal. You jump on it. We'll come to find out, one, you're probably not the first person that's bought that same ISBN, which means when you try to upload it to KDP, it's going to tell you it's already used. So you've just wasted your money. But also, like I said, it has somebody else's imprint on it, because it's when I register for the ones in Barker, it requires me to put an imprint. It's not an optional field. Like in KDP, it's an optional field to put the imprint. When you buy it officially, like I said, I can only speak for the US, but in the US, you have to put an imprint, which means the person that you bought that from had to put something there. And I guarantee you, they didn't put whatever your brand is,
exactly.
And so, there's just so many different reasons why you don't want to buy it from anyone other than the agency.
Yeah. And I know it's expensive because I think if you buy one ISBN, it's about £90, so maybe $100 or something like that for one. And you think, wow, I'm gonna have to sell a lot of books to to get that back. But if you buy them in bulk, there are several tiers, and I tend to buy, because I publish a lot of books, I tend to buy them in tiers of 100 for my low content books, medium content books, whatever you want to call them.
Whatever the term of the day is.
Whatever the term is at the moment. They're not novels they're not fiction or non-fiction anyway, right. Whatever falls outside that.
If you're writing stationery.
Yeah. So for them, for the more sort of the ones that take more effort to make, and there are really nice books as far as I think, I do buy them in bulk because I do make, I plan on making quite a lot of books. And that way, it turns out that each book only costs me, or each ISBN only costs me about £3. So it's a massive difference from paying nearly $100 for one to paying maybe $5 for one if you buy them in bulk. And then for the Home Boss Media, which is what I published my that book there.
I was going to say the toolkit,
my Home Boss Toolkit book. That one I bought them, I think in lots of 10, because I didn't know how many I was going to publish under that name. So I thought, and that works out cheaper as well, but it gets expensive. It's not cheap.
It does.
You have to be absolutely sure the kind of books that you're buying your ISBNs for are going to get you sales, or that, you obviously you're risking something anytime you publish a book, you don't know, but you just have to sort of think about your business and what's best for your business, for your publishing company. So that's how I do it.
I agree. And I would say one thing to do, if you're thinking about buying an ISBN, one thing you can do is write down just on a piece of paper how many or what books you plan on using the ISBN for, and the different formats. So like if I'm doing it for my children's books, I'll want one for the paperback, and I'll want one for the hardcover. So that's two right there for one book. And you start writing those down, and then you can see how fast 10 ISBNs really go. A couple books, if you have it in multiple formats, you can go through 10 pretty quickly. I actually, for those people watching, if you saw me looking off screen, I actually was pulling up Bawker's site here in the US to get some price comparisons, just so you can see what we're talking about. So for one ISBN, it's $125. For 10, it's $295. So that brings it down to like $29.50 per ISBN. And then you can get 100 for $575, or you can get 1,000 for $1,500, which, again, as you're looking at it, is even cheaper and cheaper. So it really depends on how big your brand is, and being clear, like if you have one overarching brand, then you can get like 100 and use it for different types of books. Just know that what you put in the imprint is going to be visible in the product details section on Amazon. So just know that you don't want to confuse, again, you don't want to confuse your readers. And to be honest, many times people don't even look at that. The average customer doesn't. But again, any chance you have to get your brand out there and make it, even if it's subconsciously something that they get used to seeing, it's one more way to really change a customer from just being a normal customer to a more dedicated customer, loyal customer to your brand.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I think it's actually a really interesting topic about ISBNs, because when I first started, I really couldn't get my head around it. I wasn't sure what it all was. Why are there ISBNs even? And I didn't quite understand the whole process. But, if you look at any book on your bookshelf, there is always an ISBN in a book. You pick up a notebook, there isn't. So, I think it's pretty clear why now. So I think for low content books, this was a really smart move by Amazon not to have to bother with the ISBNs, because also, I mean, I know numbers are infinite, but how long do you want them to become, the ISBN? So there's a limited amount of, I don't know, is it 13 digits in each ISBN?
It's funny because it used to be 10, and
Right.
and then you could get a 13-digit one as an option, and then now, just because of the sheer volume, they're pretty much all 13 now. And usually the first 3 digits, like I said, each section of the ISBN denotes something different. And that now they just recently launched where some ISBNs are going to have a different first 3 digits just because of the sheer volume of books that are out there. And so so you can go online and look up. I find it super interesting to what each of the little things, because it's your country, and the edition of the book and all that other stuff is all crammed inside there. And you'll have it, when you buy in bulk, you'll have basically one section is dedicated to basically you, the imprint. And so all of your books will have, this section will be exactly the same. And so again, the average, consumer isn't going to notice this, but bookstores notice that, and it helps them to group your books together, even if they're not necessarily in the same niche. But if they share that one section in the ISBN, then on their digital shelves, they're more likely to be kind of all grouped together. So I mean, but again, it really comes down to what works best for you and your brand and your business. If you, and I don't say this to be, if you only do what we're calling stationary, if you only do no content, low content, and even some medium content books, then you may never need to buy your own ISBN, and that's completely fine. I mean, I've gone 6-7 years without buying an ISBN. Even with my children's books early on, I didn't buy an ISBN. But again, once you start getting to the point where you really want to build that brand more, that's when, and you can afford it, that's when I really would suggest consider getting an ISBN, buying your own ISBNs.
I think that's absolutely spot on. And you said something that I think is the key to it, if you can afford it, because there's absolutely no reason why you should have your own ISBN. I can't think of any reason where I would say you must have your own ISBN, because even if you plan on publishing wide, you can still do that. If you're publishing on KDP with your free ISBN, you can still publish on Ingram with their free ISBN,
right.
And on Lulu, I guess it's the same. So you can still do it. I think it's, if you can afford it, definitely, then there are reasons why you would do that. And the other thing that people get confused about is some people confuse the ISBN with Amazon's ASIN number, ASIN. And again, all these numbers, they're just a way for big companies or big organizations to categorize and to file their products, and to, so the ASIN is an Amazon standard identification number.
Right.
So that's how Amazon finds, if you put, I imagine it's on their database or whatever, and they can see what product has what number. If you run a company, you know that you have your own identifying number or stock number or something like that. So it's basically all the same thing. It's like a stock number,
Right.
And the other thing that people get confused about, and I don't really know exactly what the well, I think I do, but people ask me about barcodes. Do I have to have my own barcode? And I think no, because again, Amazon puts that barcode on your books if you want to. What do you think the difference is, Keith, in having your own barcode? I'm not quite sure. I always think, oh, I don't need it, but I don't know actually.
Well, the truth is, it depends on what platforms you're using. You know, I know, you know, on the podcast, we typically lean towards the Amazon, because a lot of people, when they first start out, that's where they go. And yes, they put it on there for you, but there are platforms that require you to have your own, put the barcode on the cover yourself. I believe Lulu requires that. But you can get barcodes for free. You know, the barcode is basically a combination, from my knowledge, a combination of your ISBN with your price point that's on it. One thing I don't like about barcode is that you're kind of hard coded. I mean, if your price changes, now you got to get a new barcode, you know, and so you might not update anything on the cover, but you have to update the barcode. So that's something that's kind of a pain for me. So I usually don't mess with it unless the site that I'm on requires it, and then I'll take the extra steps needed. And I'll usually, in those cases, make sure that the price that I put it at is what I want to stay at, which is typically what I'll do for many of my books that I publish on, like I said, Lulu. And so those are the big differences that I know of. But like I said, Amazon puts the barcode on by itself, and most of the time, if you there's places online you can go where if you put in your ISBN and you put in your price point, it will create that for you. Matter of fact, I think Kindlepreneur site does that, and Kindlepreneur is one of the sites that I absolutely recommend. You know, he's completely on the up and up, so I would check that if that's something that you might be interested in. But yeah, that's pretty much the main difference, as far as I know, with the barcode. I know you were mentioning the ASIN, and one thing that's kind of a fun fact is, and just to kind of bring home the fact that the ASIN is Amazon's identifier, is the ASIN is not just for books. Literally every product that's on Amazon has an ASIN, you know. So if you're doing t-shirts, if you're selling toothbrushes or whatever, it all has a unique identifier within the Amazon database. And so that's what that ASIN is. And hopefully that helps people kind of remember the difference. ISBN, the B stands for book. It's specifically for books, whereas ASIN is unique to Amazon and it's everything on their platform.
And books have an ISBN and an ASIN, don't they?
Yeah,
so
they do.
Because they're books. So that number, the ISBN is for all the bookstores, for the libraries.
Right.
But because they're being sold on Amazon KDP, they also have an ASIN for Amazon to identify them as one of their products. So that's why they are. So yeah, it can be confusing with all the numbers, what they all stand for, but it's actually quite simple when you break it down, and it's not something that can't be overcome in one way or another. You know, it's not that daunting. You know, I've even heard people saying they don't know whether to publish or not because they couldn't get their heads around this ASIN and ISBN and barcodes, and they all seem to be very overwhelming, but it's actually quite simple.
Yeah, and they're all very similar, and that's why I'm hoping one of the takeaways that you get from watching this or listening to this podcast is kind of a better feel for what the difference is. And so real quick, final thoughts. What are your final thoughts to answer the question, should I buy my own ISBN?
Good question. I think, you know, I can only really talk from my experience and why I buy my own ISBNs, and it's just to use for my brands. That's the only reason. And the reason why that happened was because I had a brand, or I still have that brand, which I used as a pen name, and Amazon then changed their minds about using brands as pen names. They now want your pen name to sound like a person's name. And I think that is actually the correct way to do it, you know. But like I said, we all start somewhere, and I saw that people were calling their pen names brand names, and I did the same thing. And obviously I had a lot of books published under that name, and they were selling really well. They were my best sellers. And then suddenly Amazon said, you can't publish under that name anymore. They didn't ask me to unpublish anything, but I couldn't publish with that pen name. So then what I did is I bought the ISBNs and called my imprint that name, so that people, when they're browsing on Amazon, because when you browse that name, it does come up, and people were using my brand name as a keyword. So that's the only reason I did it. Otherwise, I probably still would be using the free ISBNs that Amazon gives us. But that gave my business another level, another dimension to it. But really, is it necessary? I don't think so. No.
Yeah, is it necessary? Absolutely not. I would say, should you buy one if you're doing no content, low content, or medium content books, and it's not, first and foremost, if it's not in your budget, then no, don't buy one. But if you're printing those types of books that on Amazon don't require it, then again, unless you're trying to build a brand, and one thing I just thought of, which is one of the reasons why I started buying ISBNs for one of my other brands that's not my picture books and things like that, is if you've got books that are doing really well, and what typically happens is you'll get people that basically just copy your book. And if your book has an ISBN or that's linked to an imprint with your brand name, it will stand out more than somebody else's who's just copying yours. Obviously, you can do a cease and desist and take that down and talk to Amazon and all that other stuff. But, the more success you see, the more chances that someone is going to try to try to steal it and, take the easy way out. And so one way that I have found to, because your imprint name is searchable, then when you get, like for your exact example, if that brand, is selling really well for you and somebody else comes in and starts copying it, well, if they put in the brand name that they're used to, it will pull up yours, not theirs, because it's not in their imprint. So again, it's absolutely not necessary. I mean, you can go your entire business and never buy an ISBN, but it will limit some of the places that you can publish on, because I know Book Vault, you have to have your own ISBN. So, it may limit where you publish, but you can publish on Amazon. Amazon is, huge. But again, it really comes down to your finances. Can you, even if you can afford it, does it make sense in your business? I guess is the best way to put it. And only you can answer that, is of whether or not it makes sense. I will say that if you have any questions, there's huge communities out there. I run Facebook groups. Nuria, you run Facebook groups that just, you can simply ask, does it make sense for me to buy my own ISBNs if this is, you don't have to say what books you're publishing, but if I publish, if this is what I'm trying to do. So if in the end you're trying to build a brand and you can afford it and it makes sense for your business, then absolutely yes, you want to buy it. You probably want to buy an ISBN through the appropriate agency in your country, which I cannot stress enough. But other than that, just go with the free ones. Or in the case of Amazon, if you're doing no content books, you don't even need one.
Absolutely. And the other thing is also, sometimes people think about their books, or they overthink the process of publishing a little bit, because at the end of the day, if we're running this as a business, does it even make sense to spend £100 on an ISBN when it might be a book that doesn't sell much, or it will take a long time to recoup that money that you spent on the ISBN? So, I think it depends on your business model. If you're just publishing a lot of low content books on KDP and you're just churning them out, but you're doing well with that, then, there's no reason why you should spend money. If your book is something a little bit more special and you've got an attachment to it, which most people have, unfortunately, because we think of our books as our babies sometimes, especially when we spend a long time creating them, then I kind of feel more inclined in saying, yes, get your own ISBN, because you might want to publish it elsewhere. You might want to do this, that. But like you said, I mean, in reality, no, there isn't any reason that I can think of where you definitely have to get your ISBN, your own ISBN. But, it just depends on your business model. And like you said, very importantly, it depends on your budget. You know, can you afford
Right.
it? Is it worth it? Are you indulging your ego in a way by having
Right.
your own ISBN? So there's a little bit of thinking behind it, but don't feel that you have to have one because you don't.
Right.
That's the
Agreed. Yeah.
takedown from this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It really comes down to, are you doing it for you or are you doing it for your business? Um, because sometimes it's just the vanity metrics that I have my own ISBN,
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say if it doesn't make sense for your business or your budget, then you absolutely don't need it. I've known people who have been very successful in this industry and never bought their own ISBN. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, this has been another great Mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's Mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next week, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.